Lightning is built for speed and has just two things on his mind: winning and the perks that come with it. In his fast-paced life, he has little time for anything or anyone. But who needs friends when you've got a stadium full of fans? Lightning McQueen's dream is to be sponsored by Dynaco Oil. In his daydreams, he looks great with his new Dynaco Blue paint job and his very own brand of Lightning McQueen racing tires, complete with custom spinners. Hey, and why decide on either gold or silver spinners when you can have both? After winning the Piston Cup and getting the King's coveted Dynaco sponsorship, McQueen imagines a movie deal will be the next logical step. He sees himself doing action movies, with a hint of comedy, a touch of drama, and a truckload of explosions. Chick Hicks is a racing veteran with a chip on his shoulder, a ruthless competitor who's cheated his way into more second-place finishes than any other car. He's been counting down the seasons to the King's retirement so that he can take over the coveted Dynaco sponsorship. But he never expected such fierce competition from hotshot rookie Lightning McQueen. In Lightning McQueen's worst nightmares, not only does Chick Hicks win the Piston Cup, but he wins over Dynaco as well. The King Strip Weathers has seen it all, from his humble beginnings on the Piston Cup circuit to the glitzy sponsorship and media attention he has today. This 7-time Piston Cup champion is the winningest race car in all of Piston Cup history. He's loved every second of his racing career, but truth be told, the King is ready for a slower pace. He's looking forward to more time with his queen, Mrs. the King. After a spectacular crash, the King looked pretty beat up. But rest assured, he was back on his tires in no time flat. When you've been racing and crashing as long as he has, you can handle a few scrapes and bruises. Racing sensation Dale Jr. has wasted no time gathering victories and creating a commanding track presence since winning Piston Cup Rookie of the Year honors in 2000. His drive and charisma have scored with fans, too. He's earned the Piston Cup Most Popular Driver Award 4 years running. But when it's all said and done, he's just a shy guy who enjoys quiet time with his friends and family. Rusty Cornfuel grew up on a farm in Mississippi and gained his reputation among the locals for running his own racing circuit with his buddies. Rusty won most of the races and made enough money off the event to nearly sponsor himself professionally. Luckily, his current sponsor, Toe Cap Hitch Protectors, came along to front the bill for his team. Now Rusty can spend his own money on more important things, like flying his buddies from the farm down for every race. Number 28 Nitroid racer Aiken Axler captured the 2003 Vitaline Rookie of the Year honors in his first full season of Cup competition. He's finished 12th, 7th, and 8th in the final point standings over the past 3 years. Off the track, Axler enjoys maintaining his top racing form by exercising daily and practicing a form of meditation called tie rod. He and fellow Piston Cup racer Darryl Draggard formed the alternative country jazz trio 3 Cycle and performed at the 2004 Piston Cup Awards ceremony. Chuck has always had a slight allergy to certain fuels. As a result, they make him a little difficult to be within a 5-foot radius of. Once he started racing professionally, not only did the problem not go away, it actually got worse at high speeds. It got so bad the other cars didn't want to pass him. Chuck hopes he's a good example of how a problem can become an asset. Chuck Armstrong is the toughest kid in the racing business. Last season, while suffering from a worn-out clutch, he got back on the track and bump-started himself all the way to victory lane. You can never count Chuck out, not if he's still got some engine left. Dirkson D'Agostino discovered his natural racing talent while working in the graphics department for a small racing outfit. Running errands between buildings, he dodged all kinds of obstacles at insane speeds. One day, Dirkson caught the eye of the race shop's owner, who fired the young upstart for what he considered reckless driving in the workplace, and rehired him as one of his pro racers for what he considered a natural talent on the racetrack. With little natural athletic ability, knowledge of racing's rich history, or understanding of its complex rules, it's a wonder Kevin Racingtire has been able to sustain himself in the Piston Cup circuit for as long as he has. He attributes his success to his family, particularly his father-in-law, who is the owner of the large pharmaceutical company that just so happens to sponsor the team he races for. Eugene got his start prepping race cars at a local race shop, but it didn't take long before he realized he had more nuts and bolts knowledge of racing than most of the other arrogant cars he was working on. A pickup race during lunch one day between Eugene and one of the pros showed that he had more power than he knew what to do with. With that one simple victory, Eugene garnered the attention of Wells Runabout, the owner of Team Tankcoat, and the rest is history. Ryan is not only a Vuezine corrective windshield driver, he's also a customer. Without it, the race is merely a blur of multicolored blobs moving at 200 miles per hour. His Vuezine windshield doesn't just help out on the track, it also has a special coating that helps cut down on glare while driving at night. Not to mention, it makes him look smarter. Nicknamed Easy Oaks for his laid-back attitude and his slow, gravelly voice, Ruby Oaks' view of life mirrors his approach to racing. He likes to take it easy, gather his thoughts, get folks to let their guard down, and when they least expect it, take the lead. Some would say that leakless adult dripping pans is not a prestigious sponsor, but Claude Scruggs would disagree. He's been the number 52 yellow, black, and white for more than 2 decades, and he wears the leakless logo with pride. His fan base might be a bit older, but thanks to the automotive boom of the late 1940s, there are a lot of them. And their enthusiasm for the sport and for Scruggs is so intense they can barely contain themselves. Johnny Blamer simply has one of those grills other cars love to crash into. He's been involved in more collisions than any other car in Piston Cup history, earning him the nickname Magnet Face. He's also known as the hardest working car in the circuit, though he hasn't finished a race in the 10 years he's been competing. He holds the record at 545 starts and 0 finishes. Brush Kerber is considered to be one of the most consistent veteran Piston Cup contenders. Kerber had numerous top 10 finishes in the 2006 season, but a string of mid-season malfunctions severely sidetracked his run for the Cup. With help from his fiber fuel sponsor and an overhauled diet, Brush purged his losing ways. He also attributes his resurgence to his loving wife of 40 years, Catherine, and their 14 children, Hal, Brush Jr., Penelope, Jake, Marty, Willard, Ingrid, Lucille, Scotty, Wendell, Amy, Cassidy, Florence, and of course Truman. It's Billy Oilchanger's dream to become a racing color commentator after he retires. He's watched all the greats like Darrell Cartrip and Bob Cutlass over the years and even practices announcing by calling the races out loud to himself while he's in them. It's great experience, though the other drivers find it distracting and a little creepy. Vitaline, a fuel additive vitamin company, provides fuel for older active cars. Sponsoring a race car seemed like a good way to get that message across to their customers, and they hired the right car for the job. Senior racer James Cleanair has been racing for 20 years and shows no signs of slowing down. Lee Revkins grew up mastering his driving skill on the family farm. He recalls an old rickety bridge down at the river running through the property where he'd try to thread the needle across the narrow bridge. Lee credits his nerves of steel to those daredevil runs. These days, Lee threads through Piston Cup traffic every Sunday, competing with some of the fastest cars in the world. An Ivy League school may seem like an unlikely place to start in the racing world, but only a couple of years ago, Winford, Bradford, Rutherford was grill deep in physics books learning about momentum, velocity, and anything else that would give him an edge on the track. His doctor and lawyer friends at the country club thought he was crazy, but the studying paid off. Winford is now a highly respected Piston Cup racer. He uses his vast knowledge of physics to cheat the wind and outmaneuver his fellow racers, who affectionately call him the Professor. Still early in his career, number 68, Manny Flywheel, is fast becoming one of the most consistent gearheads on the circuit. He's also the proud spokesman for his sponsor N2O Nitro Cola, which contains nitrous to give you that extra pep in your engine. Though ironically, Manny himself cannot drink the product and still race legally. Floyd Mulvihill, originally trained as an automotive engineer, decided to put down his tools and pursue his lifelong passion to race. He competed in the Junior Piston Cup Pro Series with the likes of Sage VanDerSpin and graduated to the Piston Cup in 2005. He's affectionately known as Smoky Floyd, as he enjoys laying long patches of burning rubber in front of his adoring fans. Misti comes from a racing family, but not exactly on the track. Her brother Frank is a champion street racer on the east side. Her brother Zach holds titles as the fastest drag racer in 3 towns, and legend has it her brother Dave has outrun 5 police cars in the past year alone. Suffice to say, Misti's family is very excited about her legitimate racing career, and though she may not have a perfect track record, at least her record is clean. Slider Petrolski's parents named him Slider after his uncle, famed dirt track racer Slide Powers, who graced the gritty, makeshift tracks of the late 40s. Aspiring to his namesake, Slider started racing at an early age. He challenged postal trucks, taxis, delivery vans, and all varieties of unsuspecting pedestrian motorists. He even raced a police car, but only once. Believe it or not, Crusty Rotor was actually a vinyl top salesman before the makers of Vinyl Toupee, Vinyl Top, and a Can put him out of business. While working out his frustration in the gym, he realized he had an amazing gift for driving long, hard, grueling distances without feeling even the slightest burnout. As luck would have it, the makers of Vinyl Toupee, Vinyl Top, and a Can were fronting cash for a Piston Cup team. Crusty made the biggest sell of his life, landing the job and all the spray-on toupee his roof could sport. European racer Hall Inngass migrated to the United States in the early 90s. An accomplished champion in the European circuit, he was heavily courted by a number of team owners who knew Inngass's incredible mastery of Europe's most challenging tracks. However, tragedy struck one night when Halls accidentally drove on the wrong side of the road coming home from the bowling alley. Luckily, his ego was the only thing seriously damaged, and he returned to win the Piston Cup Championship later that year. Youngest winner of the Junior Piston Cup Pro Series, VanDerSpin entered the Piston Cup competition in 2004, already a highly decorated racer. His favorite trackside pastime is dodgeball. Several of his fellow racers play with him as well, but it's the Pitties who are the toughest competition on the dodgeball court, says VanDerSpin, because they're tiny and they have arms. Darren Leadfoot is the last guy you want drafting you on the final turn. Known for his sudden 11th-hour accelerations, Darren's one car who won't let anything or anyone stand between him and the finish line. Davey Apex has always dreamed of being a professional race car. Sure, he's never come in higher than 20th or 21st, but it's still the life he's always dreamt of. He loves the cheering fans and the squealing rubber on asphalt. The only part he doesn't like is the racing part, which is probably why he's never come in higher than 20th or 21st place. See, Davey's just not competitive by nature. If someone wants to pass him, he lets them. I mean, why be rude? Mac iCar likes things clean and simple. He doesn't go for the flashy colors and gaudy stickers that adorn some of his fellow racers. He prefers a simple, sleek design and feels this creates a bold statement, one that says, "I think different." Ponchy was working as a stunt double on a movie about a pair of wisecracking California Highway Patrol officers called Hijinks when he was spotted and recruited to be a professional race car. Ponchy's gone from the big screen to the little screen, but at least it involves a lot less intentional crashing. Murray Clutchburn's first taste of competition was as a member of the 1984 gold-winning Olympic test track relay team. You might recognize him from specially marked boxes of Wheelie's shredded brakes. The momentum of the Olympics carried him straight into mainstream professional racing and a flourishing career in the Piston Cup Series. Lauded for his classic image, Murray sometimes sports his signature exhaust sideburns that made him such a hit with the ladies back in the day. Ernie Gearson recalls the day when high-dollar sponsorships and squealing fans were still a thing of the future. He may be one of the eldest racers on the grids these days, but he's been around the track once or twice and he's still got plenty of fire in his chambers. His friends call him Giddy Up, alluding to the humble 300-horsepower engine he started his career with all those years ago. Greg loves his Taco Bin sponsorship, but there is one aspect he's not a fan of: the paint job. Gingerbread brown with candy cane type would not have likely been his first choice, nor would it have likely been the first choice of a professional graphic designer, but it was, however, the first choice of the owner's 4-year-old niece. Greg is also not a big fan of judging the annual contest in which fans build a likeness of him out of real gingerbread and gumdrops. Number 117, Ralph Carlo, is little brother to the famous Hollywood actor Jordan Carlo. The two brothers had little respect for what the other did for a living, but when Jordan got a role playing a race car in the film Racing Hearts, he was forced by the studio to spend time shadowing his brother Ralph. After 2 long months of research, Jordan came away with a new respect for how hard racing really is. And after seeing his brother's performance in the film, Ralph gained a new respect for acting. Since then, Jordan never misses a race, and Ralph never misses a premiere. Kevin is the fourth in a long line of racers in the Shift-Right family. His great-grandfather Kurt raced on the old dirt tracks of the 50s, followed by his grandpa Craig, who won 2 Piston Cups in the late 70s. and his dad Clint, who won 3 in the early 90s. Kevin tries not to let the pressure of his family history get to him when he's on the track or at the dinner table. Todd Marcus is known as the biggest race car to emerge from his hometown of Dieselton, Alabama. He's also known as the only race car to emerge from Dieselton, Alabama. When asked why he chose to be car number 123, he simply replied, "Because it's easy to remember." And that's why it's also his ATM number, his internet login, his home security code, and his safe combination.